We light up the world. We light up the world.
Welcome to Fire to Inspire, the podcast. I am your host, Angel Yasmin. Today's quote is, "Boys play, men commit." I'm so happy to be here at Clark Atlanta University finishing up our Relationship Goals series. Today is a milestone for me because we have reached 10 episodes, y'all. I want to thank you all who have been listening in on Fire to Inspire because without your support, it will be so hard to keep the fire going. Keep on sharing your testimonies with me. Keep messaging me because it only fires me up to keep doing God's work. We've had Tony Gaskin, Devon Speaks as our first guest for our Relationship Goals series. So now I'm honored to have Mr. Devon Franklin finish our series out with a bang. How cool is that? Y'all, when I say that I couldn't even tell you how God worked it out where I had 3 consecutive weeks with big-time relationship experts, I couldn't tell you. My mind is blown and I'm so grateful to have met all of them. And more importantly, I'm grateful to share their stories with you all. We have learned a great deal. Today's episode, we will be discussing Devon Franklin's new book titled The Truth About Men. Devon is a trailblazer for God, a minister, an award-winning producer, New York Times best-selling author, and international speaker. He is also the husband of his beautiful wife, Megan Good, who he co-authored the phenomenal book titled The Wait. We all went crazy over that book. I want you to also meet the press because we are all here wanting to know the truth about men. Let's fire away.
Good to see everybody.
So I'd love for everyone to introduce yourselves.
Okay.
And as we discussed earlier, we'll start this way, and then we can begin the questions with one question each. And if we have time, we'll continue on.
Awesome.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I guess I'll start. I'm Trishonda Newman. I'm editor-in-chief of the Senior Panther.
Oh, right on.
And so our question would be, starting off in your book, you mentioned how you didn't have like that male role model in your life. And we actually had this conversation in our class in regards to how guys of this generation haven't seen those role models in a marriage or even dating. What guidance or advice would you have for those young males and females?
Yeah, I would say just because you haven't seen it doesn't mean you can't become it. And I think so often, just because we haven't seen something modeled, there's a danger that can become an excuse to just say, well, I didn't have it, so, I'm not going to become it. And I think we have to resist that. I didn't have a father for the majority of my life, but I still had a desire to be the best man I could be. And I had to seek that out. So I think so much of it is to, one, recognize that we all come from a past that has challenges and trauma that we have to work through. No one in this life is able to get through without something that affects you from your past. And so I think it's really important to remember that, but to not use that as an excuse not to become the best we can be. And so one of the areas to talk about in this book is I didn't have a father, which, it was more challenging to figure out, well, how do you become a man and what does that look like? And I learned a lot about manhood from women, and I also learned a lot about manhood from seeing things I didn't want to become. So sometimes you could be exposed to things that you don't like, which can be a catalyst to becoming what you do like. So I would say to any man or woman, that's struggling with that, to piece it together. I had to piece together a model of fatherhood. I had to pull from, these certain men that I knew, certain men that were in the public eye, to put together a complete package of who I wanted to be. And that helped motivate me and help bring me through challenges and trauma that otherwise may have defeated me.
Hi, I'm Angel Yasmin with Fire to Inspire, the podcast, and I'm so honored to be right here with you. But I guess I'll start out with a firing question. What is the message behind the truth about men?
The message is love. We got to learn how to love. We got to get there. Love is the most powerful force in the universe. Love is the solution. And so often us as men, we don't love very well. A lot of us, we're not taught how to love, and as a result, we don't always express that love to those we need to express it to the most. So I believe if we can get men to love, it's going to solve our problems. And that's what this book is about. It's a manual on how we can learn to love and giving women information along the way. It's not a book about what women need to do better. I think women are already doing the job. It's about what we as men have to do better. We've got to learn how to love. We got to love the person that looks back at us in the mirror and put ourselves in a process where we practice that love every day.
Awesome. Well, I thank you because we're actually ending our relationship series.
Oh, really?
We had Tony Gaskin on the first one and Devon Speaks. So thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
Hi, I'm Adore Ray, and I'm here with Rolling Out Magazine. And my one question for you is, as a man, how do you create healthy dating habits?
Well, when I was dating.
Right, when you were dating.
As a married man, let me talk about my dating habits. I don't have any. No, and I have a whole section in the book called Mastery in Dating. And what that means is, when you are single, especially when you're a man, you've got to put, love on display. And what does that mean? It means that put the woman you're dating, her needs, who she really is, as a priority for you. What does that look like? Be honest about your intentions. So as a man, if you're dating someone, tell her what you're serious about. Tell her where you're going. Don't keep her in a gray area. Don't manipulate her for your pleasure. Be honest about where you're going, what's going on, so that she can make the decision if she wants to deal with you or not. So often in dating, men can manipulate. They can, kind of say some of the truth, but not the whole truth. Why? Because they want to sometimes keep women in certain positions for their own pleasure. And I argue that when men do that, they're not leading with love, they're leading with lust. And so for a single man that wants to be a master in dating, be intentional, be authentic, be original, and be vulnerable. You're never going to get to the victorious place in your life as a man if you're not vulnerable.
Definitely.
And that vulnerability is hard. But when you open yourself up to the process, it can actually produce that in a way that can bring more healing than you may have thought. And the other thing I would say is commit. Don't be afraid of it. So often in dating, men are afraid to commit because they feel like, it's going to make me weak. It's going to reduce my choices. But there's power and strength in commitment. It's not easy, but it's worthwhile.
Definitely. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Tall Boy from TV Media. With the images that we see of celebrities and rappers and athletes, the women chase after them. Why should men feel the desire to be committed to one woman? And do we blame the celebrities for this? And how do we fix it?
No, I don't think that the blame is at the feet of celebrities. I mean, I see all types of men, celebrity or not, having a hard time staying committed or choosing not to stay committed. So I don't think that's a celebrity problem. I think it's a man problem. And I think that, as men, part of it is curbing our appetite. And a lot of that starts in dating. And I talk about that in the book. It's like, hey, if you have no discipline in dating and all of a sudden you get married, it's going to be very hard to be disciplined in marriage. And to your point about what women find attractive, I don't spend a whole lot of time dealing with women and what women have to do better and the lust in women, even though I do touch on it somewhat. As a man, it's so important to determine, here's what I'm about, here's where I'm going. There are going to be some women that aren't going to want to go with you. That's okay. All you need is the right one to walk with you. And so it doesn't matter if you see a bunch of women going after celebrities or men that may embody a certain thing. What's important is to own what you embody as a man and know that that's going to be good enough for the right woman to want to embody that with you.
My name's Sosa, and my question is, what advice would you give a woman who really wants, her dream guy? What questions would you say she should ask to be able to test if this man is really serious?
I would say initially, just be in a period of observation. I think sometimes because there is an unnecessary and unfair pressure put on women who are single to be in a relationship, sometimes that kind of works against an organic dating process. Because a lot of times women may go into a dating situation and on the first date, they're thinking all these things. Well, is this the right person? What's he? He doesn't know you. You don't know him. So have a period of observation. Do I even like this person? Does this person even make me laugh? Do I like spending time? Once you get past an observation period and you start to think, this is somebody that I think I could really have some feelings for, that's when I would early enough begin to ask some questions. What are you about right now? Where are you going? What are you committed to? What are your aspirations? What are your dreams? How many women are you dating right now? Ask all those questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions, because whenever I believe a woman is afraid in asking questions, she will position herself, if she's dealing with a man who's not leading in love, will position herself to ultimately be manipulated. Because a man is very clear what he has said and what he hasn't in terms of a commitment. And sometimes it takes the woman to ask the question, are we committed? Are we exclusive? What's going on? For that man to finally say, well, no, we're not, or yes, we are. And so I would say, once you're past that observation period, then ask as many questions as you feel you need to get clarity on what's happening. However, don't bring the pressure of needing to find a man into those questioning, if that makes sense.
That makes sense.
Because sometimes you're bringing that pressure and you're like pressing him, and he's like, yo, we're just getting to know one another. I'll tell you everything you want to know, but I don't want it to feel like there's a gun to my head.
Yes.
So your tone is everything. And I talk about that in the book. Tone is everything. And when you're dealing with the right person and there is the right fit, the more that you yourself as a woman are cool, calm, and collected about the whole thing, and still confident in asking the right questions at the right time, the more you're going to see it be revealed if it's the right person or not.
Hello, my name is Taylor Patton Williams here
Hey,
with
Taylor.
All Urban Central. And my question for you is, with all the unnecessary pressures from social media and the idea of what a good man, good woman, good relationship is, how do you weed through those perceptions to have a good, healthy relationship for yourself?
Yes, in this era, in this time of social media, it becomes really, really critical to have a sense of self. Not a sense of selfie, a sense of self. Because, it takes sometimes 100 pictures for one selfie,
Yes.
right? So that's not really a sense of self.
Right.
Because in the world of social media, that sense of self can get distorted. And that sense of self can be outsourced to likes and comments. And what happens when we do that, it's dangerous because people we don't know, people we don't care about, begin to dictate how we feel on a day-to-day basis.
Mm-hmm.
So value and self-worth, I believe, should be found independent of social media. And as a matter of fact, anything that's posted should be a reflection of that value and self-worth, not a search for it, which is really a really important dynamic because sometimes we could be searching for ourselves with what we post and who likes this and who likes that, and I'm trying to do this and I'm trying to do that, versus saying, I have a sense of who I am and I'm proud of that. And no matter what people say, no matter what people like or don't like, I'm going to post what represents me. That's why a lot of times, even when I post, I don't really go back and look at a lot of comments all the time. I don't always want that in my head.
Yeah.
I don't even sometimes want to know how many likes. Sometimes I feel this is what I want to post. It can get 1 like or 1,000,000 likes. It is what it is. And I think in an era of social media, it's important to manage social media or it will manage you or me. And it's not an easy thing, but it requires discipline.
Mm-hmm.
Discipline is something that we can use in every area of our life that will, I think, improve every area of our life.
Thank you.
Of course, thank you.
Hi, my name is Devon Murray.
Thank
I'm
you.
here with the Blueprint, which is Spelman's Outlet, and Morehouse's The Maroon Tiger.
Oh, cool.
So my question is, there's a constant narrative that men are dogs, as you explained in the book, and that guys shouldn't really care about settling or committing until they're like in their 30s or ready for marriage. So with that, I wanted to take it home to kind of this generation of people kind of being scared to commit or being young and in college and etc. So my question is, do you believe it's important for men to begin practicing to master the dog during their college years?
Absolutely. I mean, without a doubt. I think it's never too early to get disciplined, especially in this area. And as I mentioned earlier, and I talk about this in the book, that discipline is not a magic wand. It's a practice. Same as mastery. It's a practice. Loving, it's a practice. You never get to the place where you do it perfectly and you work at it. The more practice you have at it, the more successful you'll be long term. So even in your college years as a man, it's still important to have discipline. It's still important to have self-control. Because what happens, especially in your college years, when you don't have those things, you not only do a disservice to yourself, but you do a disservice to pretty much every woman you come in contact with. Because you don't view them as people, you view them as objects. Objects for what? Objects for your pleasure. So it's important for a man to say, I want to be a master, even in college. Why is that important? Because those 4 years can lay a foundation for the success you have for the 40 years that come after it. If you have the right type of discipline and the right approach. There were times when I was a college student, again, I wasn't perfect by any means. And even in the book, I talk about, hey, I still work between mastery and the dog. I work between love and lust. Something I'm working out every day. But in college, I was so focused on where I wanted to go. I knew I wanted to be successful in entertainment. I knew I wanted to have my own company. And I knew that I was never getting this time again. So that meant certain nights I wasn't going out when everybody else was going out. I would stay in the dorm. Other people would hang out. I'd be working. I had an internship, where I was working at the company that managed Will Smith. I had a work-study job on campus. I had a full class load. I was focused on where I was going. And I could not reconcile never getting there because I said, I'm not going to go my internship because I feel like hanging out. I feel like, I want to play around. I want to have multiple women. What we don't realize as men, it takes energy, time, and money to handle all the women that sometimes at one period of time we may manage. And at the end of the day, what do we have to show for it? So as a young man, I would say, If you spend 4 years and it's only about the women that you sleep with, and it's only about the women you date, you're going to miss the power of this moment. And you can do damage to yourself long term, where one will never be enough. You want more for more's sake. Practice discipline now. It will pay off not only in the moment, but also in the future.
Hi, I'm Mimi Wood. I'm with WST Radio. And my question was, a lot of guys that I'm friends with or that I know have really bad habits when it comes to dating. And like, how do you go about breaking those habits? Because they know that they're bad, but they will continue to do them. And they know that they're bad, but they don't really know how to break them.
Mm-hmm.
They've been taught how to.
I mean, listen, it's a shameless plug, but get the book. I mean, the truth about men. I mean, seriously, like it's like really, even as as I look in the world, and even when I was coming up, there's really not a model for how to do this. And I don't have all the answers by any stretch of the imagination, but I put as much as I know to help in this very area, because there are young men out there that are struggling, that are doing pain, that are inflicting pain on themselves and to the women they come in contact with, because they don't really have a model on how to do this. Here's how, and part of what's so key, and I talk about this in the book, even when you're practicing mastery, one of the keys is to not practice suppression. Sometimes people think, well, in order for me to be honest, I have to feel the urges and do something. Well, no, it's not always that way. Do your urges control you, or do you control your urges? So for young men, it's important to also decide, what type of man do you want to be? A man that inflicts pain or a man that heals pain? Only two types of men. So even for that person that may not exactly know the steps, they can still say, this is who I want to be. And can you identify men in your life that you say, yeah, that person did something to a woman in my family that I would never want to do to another woman. Then don't do it to another woman, right? If it's done to someone in your family, don't do it to somebody else who is a part of someone else's family, if that makes sense. So yes, those young men can be reached, but fundamentally, there has to be something in them that says, I got to live better. And having friends that hold them accountable. Accountability in this season, it's everything. You used to be like, oh yeah, you got some friends and they date however, oh whatever, da 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 da. But now it's like, no, bro, look, man, I love you, man, but yo, we can't hang like this, because at the end of the day, you are having behavior that may seem fun to you, but it's damaging to them. And that doesn't mean everybody, every time you date, it's going to lead to marriage. It's just not. But at least there can be honesty and integrity in the process, where everybody knows all the information they need to know up front. And as adults, they can decide if that's what they want to do. And if it works out, great. And if it doesn't, it's okay, because everybody knew what was happening up front, instead of there being manipulation and lying and blurring the edges of what was really happening. And then at the end of the day, all these people are hurt. For what reason? And then the man just goes off and lives a great life. No, we got to change that. So that's what I would say to those young men. Great. Excellent questions, John. Awesome.
Thank you.
when they strike, we lie.